What's going on, fellow spectators? Welcome back to another video. I don't know if you guys are as excited as I am, but I absolutely love this time of year, and that's because we are in the thick of the NBA playoffs. And even though it's sad for me to say that both of my teams are out of it, as you can see, I am a Oklahoma City Thunder fan, and for those of you who don't know me, I am also a Denver Nuggets fan. But even though they're both out of it, I try to catch as many of the games as I can. I enjoy watching it, and that's where the idea for this video came to be. I was watching an NBA playoff game, and if you're anything like me, I get so frustrated at all the players that just flop all the time. Officials making bad calls, officials missing calls, not just against my team, but even when they do it for my team. It's so frustrating that it is a part of the game. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I do like it when it's for my team a lot more than when it's against my team. But it got me thinking, who are the biggest, best, worst floppers in the NBA? And if you stick around till the end, I will reveal my all-time NBA floppers team. But first, I want to tackle, how do you stop flopping in the NBA? And I think I have the answer. And if the NBA were to implement some of these suggestions, I believe that flopping could come to an end. And if you agree with anything that I'm saying and you want to see flopping come to an end, if you're tired of referees, officials blowing their whistle before a foul even occurs, let alone before contact even happens, then please like, comment, and subscribe below. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell. I would love to hear who you guys think the all-time floppers are in NBA history. And if I left any suggestions out on how we could stop people from flopping, I would love to hear them. Let's bring it into it. And with that being said, let's just jump straight into the video. Okay, first of all, does anybody remember how the NBA thought that they were going to bring it into flopping just by fining the players? What even happened to that rule? I can't even remember the last time somebody got fined for flopping. It seems like it's been years ago. It all started October 4th, 2012 when the NBA released guidelines for the anti-flopping rule. And I'm going to read some of those guidelines to you, or at least an article that was written about those guidelines. The NBA will penalize floppers this season, fining players for repeated violations of an act that has no place in our game. Those exaggerated fouls to the floor may fool the referees and fans during the game, but officials at league headquarters plan to take a look for themselves afterward. Players will get a warning the first time, and then a second violation is when they get fined $5,000, and then $10,000, $15,000, all the way up to $30,000. The playoffs worked a little bit different. As soon as you got your first violation, it was an automatic $5,000 fine, and then 10, and then 15, and then it then jumped up to $30,000 after that. I don't know what happens if you were to get a sixth violation in the regular season or a fifth violation in the playoffs. It never happened, but does anybody know how many players in the 2012-2013 NBA basketball season were fined for flopping? I'm going to show you guys a list of every single player that was fined ever since this rule got implemented. You can see in the 2012-2013 season, 13 players were fined for flopping in the regular season and or playoffs. Now keep in mind, they also have to receive a warning. So that means that at least 26 times the league either warned somebody or fined somebody. I guarantee that there were a lot more than 26 flops in the NBA that year. Going on to 2013-2014, only 9 guys were fined for flopping in the regular season and or the playoffs. One guy's name that sticks out that appears on this list multiple times is Lance Stevenson. He also got fined in the 2012-2013 list. He is by far the one player that got fined the most for flopping. And the only player that ever got fined to the $10,000 level, the 2014-2015 season, only 6 players were fined in the regular season and or the playoffs. And then finally in the 2015-2016 season, you can see that only 2 players were fined for flopping, and they both happened during the playoffs. And Isaiah Thomas is the last person that has been fined for flopping. So why didn't this rule work? I believe there are 2 reasons. The first reason, Roy Hibbert of the Indiana Pacers, he put it perfectly. $5,000 is a drop in the bucket for NBA players. It doesn't mean anything to them when they get fined this small of an amount. Hibbert told USA Today's Nicole Auerbach that players aren't asked to pay fines out of pocket. Instead, fines are simply taken out of their paychecks. They don't have to write a check or anything. They just make a tiny bit less money the next time they get paid. And I thought this was interesting. If you do the math, assuming NBA players get paid every 2 weeks like the rest of us, taking $5,000 out of LeBron's paycheck is the equivalent of taking $13 out of the average person's paycheck. The second reason is because the players got rewarded for flopping. What happens when a person flops? They either get fouled or they draw the foul on somebody else. Let's talk about the reward they get for when they draw a foul on somebody else. It's a turnover on the other team. They get the ball back, which gives them more opportunities to score the basketball. What happens when they get fouled? Most of the time, they go to the free throw line. Now, if you're a good free throw shooter, then you're going to the free throw line a lot, which James Harden has made a living doing. He's the perfect example for reason number 2 that this rule didn't work. They rewarded James Harden with flopping by sending him to the free throw line some 12, 13 times a game. And let's just say your scoring average goes up. Well, you're probably going to get a bigger contract. If you're a big enough star, you're going to get endorsement money. So if it's helping their averages go up, it's helping their team win, they're going to get paid more money on the back end. So what's $5,000 to them? It's, as Roy Hibbert put it, it's a drop in the bucket. So why did the NBA stop fining the players? Is it because of the reasons I just laid out? It could be, but one player did not like the rule, and this particular player, Chris Paul, who's one of the biggest floppers in our game, still wasn't happy, represents all the players for the Players Association. In that same article that I already read to you guys, the Players Association plans to file a grievance with the league office and an unfair labor practice charge with the National Labor Relations Board, arguing that it should have been consulted first before the new rules were implemented. We will bring appropriate legal action to challenge what is clearly a vague and arbitrary overreaction and overreach by the commissioner's office. And so they file grievances, they file lawsuits. The NBA still goes forward with it because they believe that they did not do anything wrong. But when they realize that the rule is not having the effect that they thought it would have, they didn't want to fight the Players Association. And so I believe that they just stopped. They didn't care anymore. They just stopped. It wasn't worth it to them anymore. So how do we stop it? I have 3 suggestions, and I truly believe that if they implemented them, that flopping would stop. And if you guys have more, I would love to hear them. The first is to stop blowing the whistle and or calling a foul for the flopper. You have to figure out a way to penalize the player. If you don't blow the whistle and they turn the ball over, other team gets the ball and they go score a bucket, and now you just disappointed your team because you decided that you wanted to just fall over because somebody barely touched you. And for those of you who have ever played basketball, it's very hard to get knocked over. So these touch fouls that are knocking professional athletes over, it just doesn't happen. I say that because even if I were to get fouled hard on my arm, my head would not go flying back. So, unless somebody gets hit in the head, anytime you see their head fly back, don't blow the whistle. Don't reward them with the free throws. They stop getting free throws, they start turning the ball over, they stop getting the call, flopping starts to go down. The second thing goes along with the first one is that you have to give the referees the freedom to do this. You have to allow them to take their time when calling fouls. Let them blow the whistle late. And more importantly, tell them, don't blow the whistle unless you actually see the foul. You have to see contact or see the foul that was committed before you blow the whistle. No more anticipating foul calls. And if you do, give them the freedom to change the call. And my third suggestion kind of builds off the first two, because a lot of people are going to say, well, what happens when a player gets hacked on the arm, an official doesn't see it, so they don't blow their whistle? Well, now you have a whole nother problem of missed calls. My solution to that is to add a fourth official so that you can cover more angles. I know the NBA has talked about doing this. I don't know if they still are talking about it, but the biggest argument against it is that the court will be overcrowded. There's only a limited amount of floor space. But all you have to do is put a fourth official on the baseline that doesn't run up and down with the players during transition. You have to have somebody that's already standing down there, because a lot of the calls that get missed are going to be the calls in transition. And no offense to these officials, but they're trying to keep up with professional NBA players, and when they run down the court and the player just falls down or throws their head back, they're going to blow their whistle because they're going to assume that that player got fouled. So just already have that fourth official standing down at the baseline waiting for the transition to happen. And you can still do your rotations, because all you have to do is send 2 out of the 3 officials to the other side of the court during transition and just do their regular rotation. So let me know what you guys think. Do you think that that would stop flopping? Do you guys want flopping to even stop? Do you have more suggestions? But in the meantime, as promised, I have my all NBA flop team, and I want to know if you guys agree with my list or disagree with my list. So again, please like, comment, and subscribe down below and let me know your thoughts. We're going to start with the power forward position, and Anderson Varejao makes my team. He played about 13 seasons in the league, with his 13th season being only about 14 games. He played his first 11 and a half seasons with Cleveland, and the remainder of his career was in Golden State. You know that you are considered a big-time flopper when you retire, and there are rumors that go around that players around the league are happy that you retired so they no longer have to deal with you flopping. Next is the center position, and Vlade Divac takes this spot. When you hear the word flopping associated with the NBA, many people think back to Vlade Divac. From 2000 to 2002, the Sacramento Kings were one of the biggest rivals to the Los Angeles Lakers. Vlade Divac, he struggled to stay on the floor with Shaq because he kept getting into foul trouble, so Vlade started to flop to influence calls in his favor. My small forward is Manu Ginobili, the king of flops. If you look Manu Ginobili up, he's listed as a shooting guard, but throughout his career, he was used in the 2 and the 3 spot. But when Manu Ginobili was asked about his flopping, here's what he had to say. I don't think I flopped that much. I had that year in 2005 where my reputation started to go up because George Karl started to say it, and he said it to a million newspapers. You know, because I had the long hair and all of that. But I don't think I was. If you look at the tapes in my last 10 years, you're not going to see much. I attacked the rim constantly, and I was only 200 pounds, going up against guys who were 280, whether it was Shaq or guys like that. First of all, nobody thought he was a flopper because of his long hair, and second of all, there are plenty of tapes out there that show him falling down with much smaller guys than Shaquille O'Neal running into him.
My point guard is Marcus Smart.
Marcus Smart was on this team when he was in college, and when that's the case, you know that you are a big-time flopper. It is just a part of his game. I don't think he knows how to play without flopping. He is best known in the NBA for being a terrific actor. He is great at embellishing calls. In fact, Marcus Smart is one of the only players that I know of that has an anniversary for one of his flops. And I'm sure most of you who have seen it would remember this one. It was against the Atlanta Hawks. The ball got shot from the corner. Kyle Korver was boxing out, and as soon as Marcus Smart and Kyle Korver made contact, Marcus Smart flew toward the baseline, flopping like a fish. He has drawn call after call after call for his flops, but sometimes because he comes across as acting so much, it costs him from getting the call sometimes. I remember a couple years into his career, a game against the Utah Jazz. Smart was trying to take a charge against Rodney Hood, and it might actually have been a charge, but because Smart threw himself backward like an explosion had taken place a few feet away, the ref didn't blow a whistle. And many other times, he makes it look like he gets elbowed in the face as if his jaw was broken, and when the whistle doesn't blow, he stands up and starts arguing the call, talking like everything's fine. And as you watch some of these clips, yes, Marcus Smart is most definitely on my All-NBA flop team.
And finally, the shooting guard on my team is James Harden.
A lot of people have a love-hate relationship with James Harden. They love him because of just how good he is. On the other hand, he gets away with so much that it just makes you cringe every single time. He has mastered the art of playing within the rules that the NBA and the officials allow him to play in. And then if the officials are going to continue to call flops with your head flying back, with your body flailing to the floor, with you jumping into players so that it looks like that they aren't giving you enough space to land. If they're going to keep making those calls, then James Harden is going to be smart and continue to do it. And a lot kind of blew up in the playoffs. I mean, it's already been known that James Harden is a flopper. But in this year's playoffs, first against the Utah Jazz, when they closed them out by 3 points, James Harden started the game 0 for 15. But his flops in the series were worse than that start. Now, he finished the game 3 of 20, but James Harden got help from his teammates, and James Harden went to the free throw line 16 times, making 14 of those. He goes to the free throw line more than anybody in the NBA. In the second round, game 1 against the Warriors, everybody knows the complaining that went on after the game. They had a whole video presentation of last year's Western Conference Finals with all the calls that the Warriors got away with. James Harden is quoted with saying, "I just want a fair chance, man. Just call the game the way it's supposed to be called and we'll live with the results." If you go to the free throw line more than anybody in the NBA and you are known for flopping, then you probably don't really have a case for calls not going your way. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Here are the honorable mentions. Again, let me know if you think I left anybody off the list. Do you think any of the honorable mentions should replace anybody in the starting lineup? Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'm going to let the rest of these clips play out, but until next time, I will see you guys on the flip side.